Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today, Rainbow Six Extraction surprised me. It's gonna be tough
They're
for
coming.
one. They're pouring out of here now.
Shooting the guy. Watch behind you, watch. Okay, I got it.
For me, this game is a tale of two sides. On the one hand, as someone who had never played a ton of Siege and never experienced the in-game event that they did that spawned off this entire spin-off, I thought that the notion of mixing Siege's more methodical gameplay with the idea of intelligent alien parasites sounded kind of awesome. But then on the other hand, I wasn't wowed by the initial marketing and gameplay they showed off back at E3 last year. It looked incredibly samey to Siege, and it looked as though little innovation had been made. And I'm not going to stand here today and claim that this is an entirely new experience, but I'd be lying if I said I hadn't had a lot of genuine fun with this game so far, and that has truly surprised me. So what I want to do today is just give you all some of my general thoughts and impressions and just kind of go through what has made Extraction a winner for me personally. I'm going to do this with the help of my friend Delta, who I captured all of this gameplay with. We had some conversations about the game as we played, so I'm going to intercut those as we go along. And you guys should definitely go check out his channel. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. I think at its most basic, it boils down to this. Rainbow Six Extraction just has a fun, simple gameplay loop. You drop into an incursion, or whatever they're called, and you have 3 zones to progress through, each with their own objective you need to complete. And in between those, they add in that classic trope, but in a good way, of choosing your own risk. You've completed the first objective, but your ammo is low, and everyone's health is less than half. Do you move on to the next objective in the hopes of scoring more XP, or do you extract now and take what you've earned? So at its core, again, I think it really contributes to making this feel so fresh and fun each incursion you drop into. But then beyond that, the game just feels really slick. This footage was all captured on an Xbox Series X, and I have to say I have basically zero complaints with the technical performance. Rock solid 60 FPS, smooth movement, gunplay, everything. And this is part of where my inexperience with Siege comes in. Based on my limited time in both games, I would make the claim that this iteration of Rainbow Six's more methodical FPS gameplay works just as well, if not even better, in Extraction than it does in Siege. And I asked our resident Siege fan about this. So, here's a thought that I've had in my head, and now that I'm playing with an actual Siege fan, I'll be curious to hear your thoughts. Because I never got hugely into Siege, my opinion is kind of that I think the gameplay of Rainbow Six, between Siege and this, fits better in Extraction than it does Siege, just with how, methodical it is. Does that make sense, or would you agree?
No, that's actually I agree with that. To a certain extent, Siege is the original.
Right.
It's this is literally in the Rainbow Six Siege universe, and you're gonna compare it to the original source material.
Yeah.
With the like you mentioned, the methodical sort of clearing room by room.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of the terrorist hunt version of Siege.
Yeah, that's true. And so, point being, whichever gamer iteration you may prefer more, I think Ubisoft has done a very nice job with these two titles in picking gameplay loops that fit the type of gameplay you're offering. Super fast slide canceling movement wouldn't really feel good in the smaller map designs that this game has, yet given the slower pace of everything, it works really well. And beyond that, there's just so many satisfying elements in here that culminate in a really great experience in my view. The graphics are top-notch. I think the art design of the Archaeans' corrupted environments is stellar. There's a bunch of gameplay details that are very satisfying, namely to kind of pop and destroy the nests or one-tapping unalerted enemies and seeing all of your points pop up on the side. And this is another really core element that I think makes the game a success in my eye, is that it strikes a terrific balance between the stealth gameplay and the gameplay during those high-octane, high-intensity moments. Whether you're going in and slowly clearing things room by room, more in the terrorist hunt style of things, as Delta was saying, it feels incredibly satisfying and rewarding afterwards to have tackled that challenge in such a way. But when those action moments do arise, whether it be from your own team's mistakes, like you got seen or used an unsilenced weapon, or it's forced onto you in some of the objectives where you have to defend a zone or kill an elite target or lure an Archaean back to the extraction point, the more methodical gameplay suits that stealth so well, and that translates into the more action-oriented experience. And honestly, I don't know how. I think it's just the fact that you can't jump or slide or whatever. You use the more limited tools at your disposal to more effectively deal with the chaos around you. If things get bad, my goal isn't to ninja flip my way out of there, but to reposition, dig in, and take care of the oncoming threat. And I just think the natural adoption of that gameplay style that I went through was really cool to see. And on top of that, that's all reinforced by the carryover mechanics from Rainbow Six Siege, which some people might say is lazy, and I understand that, but at the same time, I feel like Extraction honors the roots that Siege seeds planted, and allows you to feel like you're in the same universe while being its own game, which is cool, I think, that they chose to keep it faithful. In a way, this is like kind of what I hope. I don't know. I feel like in terms of Ubisoft doing spin-offs, this is like probably one of the better examples where they're like staying faithful to the first iteration. You know, this is probably what we would hopefully want them to do with Heartland, where they're not like disregarding what the Division is, but still doing new stuff.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Like, I definitely think that this is a very, very good adaptation of Siege.
Some of those specific mechanics I'm referring to are that you can still reinforce, which I would say has more limited usage here, but can still be very valuable depending on your current objective and situation. And then, at least according to Delta, a wide variety of the gadgets from Siege reappear here, except now you can mix and match them between characters a lot more than you're able to in that game. One of the last big things I wanted to touch on here is difficulty. For as many games that take things too casually these days, at least in my opinion, I was surprised by the general unforgiving nature of Extraction, and how I think that leads to a really difficult and challenging game experience, which is refreshing and fun to see. This results from a culmination of compounding factors, one of the biggest ones being you don't regen health. Unless you find a medkit or get healed by a specific operator, the health you go in with is all you get, and that can be a challenge given the number of variables and factors you need to look out for. Things like spotting the different varieties of enemies, whether they're the ones who are going to run at you and take a swipe, the ones who will stand up and start shooting you, or the ones who are going to rush you and explode. Things like the spore mechanic, which if you had just told me about on paper, I would have said is stupid. Basically, they're spores that attach themselves to you if you get too close, and then unless a teammate shoots them off you in a given period of time, they explode in a damaging gas, which sounds annoying, and they are, but I'll be completely honest, I actually found it to be another very engaging team play mechanic, and it was just another layer of things adding to the complexity of the experience and adding to that challenge. You'll see in the gameplay that Delta and I developed a very, methodical routine of calling out that we needed clearing, and we'd shoot the spores off of each other without having to stumble around with it too much. So there's that stuff, and then on top of it, you have mutations, which are basically just modifiers that can be applied to each session and objective that you take on. Now, I hadn't had a ton of exposure to these things yet, but we did encounter one which made the majority of enemies spore carriers, meaning if they got too close to you before you kill them, then the spores got transferred onto you. And obviously, in turn, that heavily increased the amount of spore maintenance and observance that you had to do. And so not only do all of these factors create a more difficult and challenging experience, but we haven't even gotten to one of the game's most central features yet, which is the character MIA stuff. Basically, if you die in a mission and your team doesn't save you or you all wipe, then your operator goes MIA, and then you're no longer able to use them in future missions, so the game takes advantage of its character roster by forcing you to play some of these different characters. And then in order to get the character back, you have to redo the same mission and map where you lost them, and one of your objectives then suddenly becomes to save, X operator. And I won't lie, the little minigame that you have to engage with to save them is intense. I should have some gameplay of it running in the background. Not only does the corrupted tree thing that's holding them look so eerie and creepy, but it's a collaborative effort where one member of the team has to actively pull them out while the others shoot orbs that travel down these tendrils that are trying to pull the operator back, and ultimately you have to shoot the tendril spawns in order to shut them down. All of this happening while external enemies are likely attacking. It's an intense experience, and again, it's just another layer of intricacy and challenge that I wasn't really expecting. So there's a lot of stuff that I like about this game, but there is one big glaring thing that I want to point out here that irks me more than anything, and that's the name of the game, Extraction, isn't really fulfilled or lived up to here. Sure, extracting is a big part of the gameplay loop. That's how you end each successful run, but there's no actual gameplay emphasis placed on it. You call it in, you're out in 5 seconds. I think it's a huge missed opportunity, and Delta agreed with me when we were playing live that there isn't some sort of wave defense at the end of each run when you extract. At least a few enemies, should come at you when you're sitting there waiting for exfil, and I'm honestly just surprised that it isn't there. And it isn't hugely detrimental to the experience or anything like that, but I do think it would have ratcheted the tension up just that one extra notch. So missed opportunity there in my book. But yeah, everyone, those are kind of my general thoughts and impressions of Rainbow Six Extraction. I had way more fun with this game than I anticipated I ever would. The gameplay is both satisfying in stealth and action. The tactical nature shines through excellently. The art design is wonderful. The difficulty is present on a scale I wasn't expecting. And overall, it's just a fun, compact $40 experience. I'm glad they did drop the price from $60. Honestly, they probably could have even gone to $30 because there isn't a sprawling amount of content per se, but there is a lot of variation within the one central gameplay loop in game mode, but that's about all there is. And so while that kind of sucks, I do believe it's resulted in a really thorough job fleshing out that one experience to its full potential. And at the end of the day, Rainbow Six Extraction surprised me in more ways than one. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe with notifications on so you can be updated every time I upload. Let me know your thoughts on this recent spin-off title by Ubisoft. Have you tried Rainbow Six Extraction? If so, did you enjoy it? And if not, do you have any intention to? Also, let me know your Siege background. Have you played that? What are your thoughts on its relation to this PvE spin-off from a primarily PvP title? Lots to talk about. I'll be super curious to read through all of your thoughts. I've been enjoying the game way more than I thought I ever would. So much so that I might even do a stream of it this week. Who knows? Let me know if you guys want that. Either way, people, let me know what you think. That's going to do it for me. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. And until the next one, guys, RogueGold out.